Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining in our ISO 9001 2015 update forum number 16. My name is Jim Thompson. I'm located here in Charleston, South Carolina. I work for Concentric, and this recording is on December 16th, 2015. If you could please, if you're joining in now, use your name versus viewer 1, viewer 2. That way, if you have a question, I can address you specifically. Keep your phone on mute. Make your questions or examples brief if you could. If you don't feel comfortable unmuting the phone and asking a question, you can use the chat feature. There's a little chat bubble at the top of your control panel, and you can ask a question there. You can ask a question specifically to me. You'll see my alias is @Jim, or you can use @all, and everyone else in the forum will be able to see your comment or question. The more interactive the session is, the better it goes for everyone. Just remember that this session is being recorded. You can visit us online after the presentation. It usually takes 4 to 12 business hours to get the recording up, but we usually have it up pretty quick, a day or two after the webinar. We also have it on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out there. Feel free to share this video with others, pass it along within your organization, supply chain, whatever. It's free, and it should be used as a resource that can help you and your organization as you transition to the new quality management system. So far, so good in terms of the background noise, so I'm going to keep everyone unmuted, and you can just kind of manage yourself as we go. As I mentioned, we're located in downtown Charleston. If you've been to Charleston, we're around Meeting and Wentworth area. We've also opened a location mid-year this year in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We have staff throughout North, South America, and in Europe. We specialize in management system products, software implementation, primarily for management system software, dock control, auditing, training, that sort of thing. We also provide services for training, consulting, and subject matter expert placement. So if we can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me. So where are we in the grand scheme of the standard development? We've been on a road for over 3 years now. That started back in May or June 2012. And as of September 23rd, 2015, the international standard was published. And as of last month, the standard was published by the U.S. group to make it available, and it's for sale now through ASQ and ANSI. I'll provide a link to those in the presentation so that if you haven't purchased the standard and you need to, there are links that will make it very easy to find out how to go about doing that. As I mentioned, this is the 16th webinar or forum that we've had. Some have been in person. We actually kicked off in person around Patriots Point. We had a session in mid-August 2013 to kick off this series of free forums to help regional companies, and then we've since made it available globally for anybody that wants to join in via a webinar. But I'm particularly excited about this month's webinar because, A, it has the least amount of slides, which is great. I always feel like we're really pushing through the material. The other thing that I like about this forum is the fact that I'm going to give additional time for questions and answers. You can ask questions as we go along. You can wait till the end. You can send them to me via chat. But I want this to be a little bit more open. I want to hear some stories about what you've experienced so far. I'd like to hear, what's going on through the grapevine in terms of people liking the new changes, disliking the new changes. And then I'm going to kind of start the momentum by hating on the standard a bit. I'll go over some pros, but I want to review some cons that I've read, other authors, publications, subject matter experts, auditors, voicing from their perspective. And then I want to give you some perspective from what I'm seeing so far and feedback from our customers, feedback from those that have joined the webinar in the past. After beating up the standard a little bit with the review of cons, I want to spend a good 10 or 15 minutes giving you some pointers, some tips on implementation resources. So we have a plethora of resources that we've gathered, different articles, key links, videos, tools. These are all in one spot, so it's easy for you to access. I'll show you where those are. Some other online resources that we haven't captured on our own website, and then some upcoming events. And hopefully this will lead you to some practical tips and tricks that can be used right away within your organization to move forward with the new changes. With that said, are there any questions to kick us off here before I get into any of the pros, cons, and resources? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So first of all, let's start at the top of the mountain, look down. This is the new layout of the standard. There are 3 clauses in the beginning that kind of set the stage for clause 4 through 10, which contain requirements. My staff and I counted up the number of shalls. We came up with 321. So there are 321 requirements within 4.0 and 10.0. I don't know if you ever get that on a trivia question, but there you go, 321. If you come up with 322, send me a message. I'd like to see the one I missed, or, I would say 321 plus or minus 4% error, because that's a lot of counting. To go a little further in the new structure, again, you've got the table of contents, a forward, introduction, then you have 4.0 through 4.10. And I really like this slide. I actually have a printout of this that I take with me in the training events that we have, and also I've got this printed out that I use for auditing. It's just a nice little index. For example, if you're talking about control of non-conforming products, well, my brain wants to go to the old clause. I can look here and see, well, control of non-conforming products is 8.7. It's just the easy little cheat sheet. If you would like this, I can send you a PDF that just has this slide and then the next slide on the back of it. That's a nice little tool. Send me your email in the chat bubble, and I'll email that to you after the presentation. But this is one of the tools that I like to use to help me kind of navigate my way around. You'll see Annex A, which is in the back, is clarification of new structure, terminology, and concepts. Annex B is kind of a list of other quality and quality management system standards that support or come from the same technical committee that published the latest version of this standard, and then some citations. I like the next slide because it's a breakout of the biggest clause, which is 8. 8 is operations. So the majority of the shall statements come from requirements that are under the operations clause. So you can see gathering the requirements, design and development, control of external provided processes, products, and services, also known in the past as suppliers. This is really where you start getting into the meat and potatoes of producing the product or delivery of the service that you provide that the customer pays for, and then this is release of the product, controlling anything that's bad. So again, if you're interested in a PDF version of this that you can print out, this is what is on the back. Send me your email and I'll send this to you afterwards. So just as a refresher, that offer, this will be the first page. And I actually printed out on a thicker cardstock, so it's kind of slips into the sheet protector on the front of a 3-ring binder. But I find this a very interesting and useful tool. So that's page 1. This is page 2. So some pros here. First of all, one of the biggest pros is that the standard is very flexible. So the service industries, the service organizations were kind of ignored in the past. There was a little statement added that says, oh yeah, anytime we use the word product or products, we also mean service. So there was some debate in some of the drafts leading up to the final standard, whether or not we're going to say goods and services. We've ended up with products and services. The standard is more flexible in order to be what's considered, generic for all types of sectors, all types of organizations, all sizes of organizations. So the flexibility is really nice. The inclusion of service organizations is a very positive step forward with the standard. I also like that there is a focus on risk. From my experience auditing for over 13 years as a contract auditor for a registrar, and also, auditing internally with the various companies I've worked for in the past 20 plus years, preventive action just was not ever really understood or utilized in the way that it was intended. So the idea of risk has been within the standard implicitly, but the 2015 version makes it very explicit and requires you as an organization to really pay attention to risk and plan for risk, identify risk prior to making a change. When you're auditing, put on what's considered kind of risk-based thinking. That's a new series of terms. And look at a process for opportunities for improvement, risks associated with potential failures, et cetera, within the process that you're auditing. So that's a very positive step, a step in the right direction in terms of getting ahead of quality issues as opposed to always reacting to them. Another positive is integration of various systems. So especially for larger organizations that might have requirements for environmental management system certification 14001, or certification for occupational health and safety, which is ISO 45001, it becomes a very difficult task to try to manage multiple management systems. So there's a document that accompanies this standard called Annex SL, and Annex SL is a document that basically provides a standard framework for all management system standards. So as this document is released, you have this 1 through 10 clause structure. You also have that in your environmental management, your health and safety, several other sector-specific management system standards. They all kind of align up with this new standard release. So the integration is easier. I like that. There's also more encouragement through requirements of connecting your quality management system to the strategic plan of the organization. And we never really heard that language used with previous versions. There are some sector-specific standards like TS 16949 in the automotive world that included terminology around including quality objectives in your business plan, that sort of thing. So that kind of tied the business management system with the quality management system. But this version of the standard goes a step further for the general QMS requirements and wants to see connectivity and really the continuity in the same direction with the QMS as well as the business direction. So those are positive. So let's talk about some cons. It's interesting. There's one guy in particular that I don't know that I've ever heard him write anything positive about anything ISO, and maybe that's just kind of his brand. I think his name is Chris Parrish or Paris or something like that. If you want to look him up, the name of his company is Oxbridge something or other, and he's all over the place, and he is the biggest hater of ISO 9001. He hates auditors. He hates quality management. He rarely has anything positive to say. Frankly, I think that he comes off a little bit harsh, but he captures my attention. So check out some of the things that he reads if you get excited about what I'm talking about here, which are the cons. I'm actually starting to think that some of his positions are actually valid and have some merit. But I'll let you come to your own conclusion on that. Generic. This word generic is being thrown around as if generic is a good thing. I look at flexibility as being a positive word. Generic, not so much. I remember in the fourth grade drinking a generic cola and one of my classmates making fun of me. So I've got a negative connotation there. To me, generic means confusing or not coming to a position at all. So there are some things in the standard that just are not explicit. The controls that used to be in place are now extremely loose, and so it's confusing. It's confusing to the implementer on exactly what it is you're supposed to do. I'll give some examples of that as we go through. There's also a bit of confusion on this context thing, context of the organization. The standard starts out by saying you need to define the context of your organization. I don't know that I've ever sat down and had a conversation with a company and said, excuse me, Bob, before we get too deep into this, can you define the context of your organization to me? It just doesn't. It's not how we talk, It's just not how we talk. It doesn't seem natural to me. I have a bit of a problem with it. I understand what the intent is, but it's just very difficult for companies to get, in my opinion, based on the way that it's currently written. I'll get into context a bit more here in a second. So by the way, the 5 points I have here that I'm saying are cons, in my opinion. I have subsequent slides, so we'll dig a little bit more into this, and you can ask me specific questions if you need to. The third thing that really bugs me is the fact that this little flag that's been in the standard that says parentheses C 4.2.4 is no longer there. And to me, that was a very simple flag that indicated anytime I saw that within the standard, there were requirements for a record to be present, and that should be evidence that something within the process was done the way that it should be done. Well, the term records don't exist, and that bugs me. It's like, why do you need to be any more cryptic with records? Records are a very important part of a management system and ensuring that there are controls in place. Why do we need to hide that? So that bugs me. The other thing is, who's going to be the leader? There is no requirement for a single management system representative. And from my experience, when you make everybody responsible, nobody's responsible. So I'm a bit concerned about this. I've had a few management reps on the phone calls in the past or in the webinars in the past. And initially it's like, yay, what a relief. I'm not going to be responsible for carrying the ISO torch anymore. All of management has to do their part. And that's true, but I think it's a bad idea to not have an individual or specific roles clearly defined, because everybody's going to be looking around the table expecting everyone else to take the lead. So I think there's a risk associated with that. And then the final point here, which is the con that I've read the most about, and it seems to be a real common theme across the board, and that is auditor interpretation. So, what are your third-party auditors going to say is required when there's so much left for interpretation? And, are you going to have an auditor coming in and saying, look, guys, this is what I experienced when I was an employee, and I think you need to do it this way. So whenever the controls or the requirements become more vague, that leaves more room for interpretation, and I think that that's a con. Before I jump into con number one in a bit more detail, are there any other questions, comments, anything at this point that you guys would like to learn a little bit more about, or a question that you might have? Okay, fair enough. I guess that means I'm doing a good job. Wait, somebody unmuted. Go ahead. Okay, maybe not. And Michelle, I received your comment, so thank you. Context of the organization. So here's the intent. The intent is define who you are. And when you define who you are, and this has been there as a part of 4.1 in the 2008 and the 2000 version, but the idea is when you make a statement to the marketplace that you're certified or you're registered or whatever, what do you mean by we are certified? So who are you? What are the components or the processes of your system? When you say we, is there some part of your management system structure that requires external support, like suppliers or contractors, or, let's say that you're a metal fabrication shop, and in step 17 out of 20, the product goes out the door to a plating or a hardening company, and then it comes back in at step 18, and then you ship it out. So the idea is, let's define who you are, what are all the processes, what are all the pieces, who are all the interested parties, which of those are internal, which are external, who do you rely on in order to get the product out the door, what are the needs and the expectations of interested parties. So anybody that's involved, or a stakeholder or shareholder, what are their needs and expectations, either with respect to receipt of the product and services that you provide, or receipt of information associated with how they're helping you in complete the products or services. One other thing that bugs me, and I try not to be closed-minded, but this one, I'm not going to get away from it. I'm stubborn. I'm just going to be old and cranky. But suppliers, a supplier is a supplier is a supplier. You're not going to force me, 9001, to use this term external providers. Again, nobody uses the term external providers. Everybody uses suppliers, and then, you still have those stragglers that are using vendors. But that's another argument. The intent here is define the playing field. Who are all the players? What are all their positions? Who are the interested parties? Who are the customers? Who are the end users? And then you can see within all the pieces here, this is your organization. Okay. Not only is it smart to define to the external marketplace who you are as an organization, but it's probably even smarter for you to define all the moving pieces within your own organization so that your people understand who you are as an organization, who all is on the team and what role do they play. Okay. This doesn't really get down into the role-based stuff that's further on in the standard, but context is defining who you are, basically. Con number 2 in the 5 that I've highlighted. So, to record or not to record. And that is the question. And as I mentioned, 4.2.4 and the reference to 4.2.4 is not in the standard as it once was. You actually have this term information, you have documented information, you have maintaining documented information, and you have retaining documented information. So this is very cryptic, but when you see the term retaining, I guess instead of C 4.2.4 that existed there before, you just replace that with retaining documented information. To me, that's the long way around. I don't like it. If it's a record, it's a record. Documented information that's retained is a record. So there you go. I guess do a search for retaining and then put a little, record icon or something like that by it. But that is the series of text that means a record. Now, maintaining documented information, this would be like evergreen, maybe statistical information or measurements that are being recorded on an ongoing basis and ensuring that information is maintained, it doesn't disappear, it could be reviewed as needed, so on and so forth. And then someplace in here is the documented information actually would be a document, a work instruction, a procedure. So I don't like all of that being clumped together. I think it's confusing, and I'm just not a fan of it. Follow the leader. Well, if you don't have a leader, if you don't have a management system representative, and it's not a single person, then you get more into principles as opposed to very specific requirements. For example, the idea is that everybody on the leadership level, which is the top level of the organization responsible for making business decisions, so all of these folks need to be responsible for the execution, the communication, and the improvement of the management system, not just this person as the coordinator. But again, the problem is all these guys will likely kind of point to each other and say, well, I thought you were doing this. And, I think that opens the door for some real issues if companies don't manage this new requirement properly. So who's going to be the driver? I can predict it now. There's going to be this deal where the top executive is going to be the representative or the driver, and that top manager, president, plant manager, CEO, whatever, is probably not going to know all of the requirements of the standard. And I'm making a generalization. I'm sure there are some folks out there that run their own company or they're the top executive that could spout out the requirements. But I would bet against it. So will the driver know the requirements? The dog, or AKA the auditor, is now going to be let off of his or her proverbial leash. Here's a question that came in one of our recent forums. Will auditors need to be retrained on the new requirements? One comment was, it seems like alphabet soup and we're just mixing the requirements around. Do I really need to go through training? Do I really need to go through lead auditor training? Can I just read it? My recommendation is that the auditors do need to be retrained. So additional trainings in the new requirement is strongly recommended, and I think it's going to be important to be trained as an auditor for two things. Not only to understand what the requirements are, but to also understand what the requirements are not. Okay, if you're going out and you're going to audit 50 suppliers because you're a supplier quality auditor or supplier quality developer, don't try to impose requirements within the standard that are no longer there. So that's a real risk. We need to understand what requirements are no longer in the standard so that you could at least make those and bake those into maybe your supplier agreement contract, as those controls are no longer there in the baseline 9001 requirement. So yes, I think that the auditors need to be retrained, and specifically where there are requirements that are going to be lost because of the changes in the more generic or general 9001-2015. I would go further in saying not only do the auditors need to be trained, but this is something that we've really strived for with our customer base over the past decade or so, and that is ensuring that the management system is not being ran or pushed or led from those that are lower on the food chain within the organization. And typically those are auditors, quality department folks, or what have you. So the training recommendation goes a little bit like this. If you look at this as 5 levels or 6 levels, we could call this level 6. Audit program managers are going to need to know, what a lead auditor knows in terms of the requirements of the standard, how to best audit, and this is the person or maybe multiple people that are responsible for all of the auditing activity associated with anybody on the team. So audit program managers, they need to understand not only what the requirements are, but advanced auditing principles, what works best, who to schedule on what audit, what types of auditing records and evidence is adequate and what's not. Same thing for lead auditors. You may not be managing the entire audit program, but as a lead auditor, you need to understand how to do effective process-based audits, how to look for opportunities for improvements, what are the 321 requirements of the standard, not that you have to memorize them, but at least how to navigate around the standard that you're auditing to. And then you have a level here of internal auditors. These would be qualified, competent auditors that can go out either on their own or in a group to conduct audits. You've got process owners, which this is making sure that those folks that are executing the management system or some portion of the management system understand the standard requirements that apply to them. Overall, general leadership awareness, and then a short training or awareness for all employees within the group. So one of the things that you might typically see is something like 1 to 2 hours here, 4 or so hours here, 8 to 16 hours with the process owners, and then the auditors and lead auditors, something like 24 hours plus. And once you get up to audit program manager, it's more experience plus maybe a advanced lead auditor course or what have you that might be 32 to 40 hours. So that's the recommendation. And one thing that we've done in supporting this type of recommendation is if we have, for example, a TS 16949 lead auditor course that we're providing that's open enrollment, anybody within the community can come in and take the class. What we're doing is we're saying the first day, this would be like 4 to 8 hours. So the first day, maybe your leadership and or process owners come to day one. And then day two is the internal auditors go to day 1 and 2. The lead auditors go to day 1, 2, and 3. The audit program managers or auditors that are lead auditors that are doing sector-specific audits, let's say, like I said, for TS 16949, you come to all 4. So what it allows you to do is have some alignment and continuity into the training and the message that your team is getting, and we feel that that's going to be not only a benefit to our clients, but also more efficient for us as a service provider. So that's the recommendation as far as training. Apply that same principle internally. Buy training material and do it yourself. That's fine, but training 1 or 2 lead auditors and sending them to the Atlanta airport for 5 days at the Marriott there is not going to cut it. And I know a lot of organizations that take that approach. So what's the expectation regarding transition? Well, get started now. Don't wait until 2017. So here's kind of the recommended steps that we would recommend you take in accordance to the timeline that we have now, which is 3 years to transition to the new standard. So 2016 gap assessment, implementation plan. Some folks have started to do that already. Your transition audit, talking to your registrar about what you need to do to move forward with the new standard, a transition audit, monitoring the transition of your suppliers. What will happen is you'll look at your supply base and ask for their upgraded certificates in 2018, and you'll find that a lot of them haven't even gotten started. So you need to be looking at a transition implementation plan now and planning for that, baking that into your 2016 QMS improvement and transition plan. For those that are in the Charleston area or have an interest in coming to Charleston in February, which is a pretty nice place to be, we are partnering with Trident Technical College, which is in North Charleston. There's lots of locations, but we're actually going to be having that there in partnership with them. They're hosting and they're handling some of the registration and marketing stuff. But February 23rd and 26th is that 3 days of training. And if you're in the automotive industry, which a lot of our customers are, you can stick around if you need to for TS 16949 auditor requirements for that day 4. If you're interested, here's the registration link down here. If you have any questions or you want me to send you this link, just send me a text or a message through the chat, or I'll tell you the 20 other ways to get a hold of me on the last slide, and I'll be happy to give you a call or send you an email or text you back, whatever it is you might need to move forward if you're interested in that training. Resources. So if you go to our website, you can Google Concentric Management Systems. You can Google Concentric Charleston. You can just put in commoncentric.com. There's a little resource tab up here called 9001 2015. There's articles, key links, videos, all that. I'm actually going to, instead of just pointing to a PowerPoint slide, I'm going to get out of this presentation for a second and scroll over here to the actual page itself. I think it's worth spending 5 minutes here. So these are things that you can take and you can pass along to folks within your organization. It's just an aggregate of a ton of different resources, a ton of different videos, and that sort of thing that we've accumulated over the last couple of years in anticipation for the standard release. Couple things here. One is, by the way, if you want to subscribe here, you can. Anytime there's a blog or an update associated with different articles that we publish, you'll get an email. It's one click to unsubscribe. So it's pretty simple. Put your email address, first and last name. You don't even have to put your first and last name, but you'll get updates that way. If you are interested in purchasing the standard, this is the ASQ ANSI version here, so it's the North American version that you can buy, and it's just the one standard. If you want to buy the bundle, you can buy it here. I think this is $139 for ASQ members, and this is like $488, something like that, dollars for the bundle, and that's for the 9001, the 9000, 9001, and 9004, those three standards in a PDF form. I don't know if you can buy the bundle printed. I think you can. I would assume you can, but that's the PDF version. I think there's maybe a $100 to $200 price break for ASQ members versus non-members, so you might as well become a member, buy it, get a free membership basically at that point, and have the standards. This here is how you register if you're in Charleston or interested in coming to Charleston and want to take the lead auditor course that I just talked about on that last slide. This is where, below that is where you will see this video. We will replace this particular forum that's being recorded right now with this one that's here. August is one that focused a lot on risk, so we left that there. There are a bunch of other forums that are recorded. You can access it here. It'll take you to our YouTube channel, or you could go to this particular link, which is a link to our ASQ certification prep courses. The Certified Quality Auditor, Engineer, Green Belt, and Black Belt prep courses are over there on the YouTube channel. This area down here, these are all links. So these are key articles. There's an article that I just read this week that is going to be added there. I'll have that added actually, let's see, within the next hour or two. I'll have that there, and it's an interesting article by Craig Cochran, who's just down the street in Georgia. Really, really good writer. I like Craig a lot. I like what he's got going. Those types of resources, as they're read and sent in to us, we put here. So as you can see, these are all links to articles. These are links more so to technical publications, documents, videos. There's a bunch of videos that'll take you to either the ASQ TV site or various videos that are on different YouTube channels and so on and so forth. So check that out. And then key tools down here, these are different tools that can be downloaded and used to help you in transitioning. They're guidance documents. They're documents to help you, let's say, like this one right here, ISO 9001 for small businesses, what to do, advice from the technical committee that actually wrote the upgraded standard. So there's a ton of stuff here, and we add to it all the time. Probably 3 or 4 times a month minimum, we're putting new stuff on this particular page. So good resource. It doesn't cost anything. We don't track cookies. Use it if you want. Don't use it if you don't want. But there it is. Let us do the work for you in pulling some of this information together for your resource or your research. This is the various ways you can get a hold of us. So I'm on the left there. That's me, Jim. We have Megan, Ronnie, Sydney in the office, and we'll have another associate after the first of the year joining us as the office manager. So that's the various ways you can connect and stay connected and following us, so on and so forth. So with that said, we have about 8 minutes left. I would like to respond to some of the questions you might have or some of the stories that you want to tell everybody else on the line, or questions, comments, ridicules, suggestions. Please chime in. One question that I received is, has there been a company up to this point that has received a certification to the new standard? And the answer is yes. I don't know the name of the company off the top of my head, and I don't know who the registrar was, but I remember reading that in ASQ within the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that has happened and will continue to be the case. By the way, there are somewhere around 1.1 to 1.2 million companies globally that are certified to the ISO 9001 standard, and all of those folks have to be transitioned over within the 3-year period. I have another question about the standard and downloading the standard. I have not ordered the standard. I actually bought the final draft international standard because I was very, very confident that nothing was going to change, that all of the delegates would raise their hand, or 75% or more would raise their hand and say, yes, I agree with this final draft, and then the standard would be published. So what I purchased was the PDF of that version. I didn't get it printed. It wasn't available printed, and it wasn't available as a site license. But I agree. I had a lot of trouble so once I downloaded it, it just didn't want to be, you can't print the thing. I mean, if you do a screenshot and then paste into Word or something funky like that, I think you could do it. But I had a lot of trouble. So I guess that means the controls that ISO has put in place to protect their licensing and their copyright is working. But thus far, I have not ordered the printed version, which I plan on doing before the end of the year. nor have I purchased the PDF of the final ASQ ANSI version. I do know that the intent is to, again, protect copyright so that you don't just put the PDF on a shared drive unless you have the licensing rights, aka you've purchased the rights to distribute that within your enterprise or shared network. I can also tell you that when we had our 9001 2015 lead auditor course, I made that same statement, and by the end of class, there were 2 or 3 different students that said, "Oh, here it is. I have the PDF. I have it free. You don't have to buy it. Here it is. I downloaded it in 5 seconds." So, you know, with every attempt to control something like this, you've got, you know, wiser, younger, tech-savvy folks that you know, find a way around it. Any other questions? Well, let me show you one other thing while I'm pausing. Other forums. So you've got October, September, August, July, June, May, April, February, March. If you have any interest in going back and looking at previous webinars, they're not all the same. Some of the things have been repeated, like the structure, but each of the webinars have a little bit different twist to them. So that's where you can find past webinars, and then the ASQ certification stuff. There's that channel there. We also have, I forgot to mention this, definitely something worthwhile, and it doesn't cost any money, but after the first of the year it will. And that is our video series here. You have the black belt prep course, green belt, CQE and CQA. So if anybody within your organization is interested in preparing for those certification exams, we've got some really good products here that was developed by one of our SMEs, Stephen Dees, that are available between now and the end of the year at no cost. So I forgot to mention that, but there you go. That's how you get to it. That's under our training pages. Is the February training location now set at Trident Tech? Yes, it is. And that is on Rivers Avenue in North Charleston. It's about 20 minutes from downtown, 20 minutes from Patriots Point. It's a really central location. We'll have the 4th day for those that are sticking around or coming in just for the TS 16949 piece. We will probably have that off-site, not at Trident Tech, but at an adjacent hotel nearby, probably the Crown Plaza or the Low Country Graduate Center, which is, you know, a few miles away from Trident Tech. If there are other classes you're interested in, here's kind of the full listing of the different classes that we have, both on site and in public. So that's under classes. And then we have some other online courses here like Lean Leadership. So if you have additional questions that I have not answered, feel free to send me a comment. Thanks for those that have commented along the way. I appreciate that. Michelle, I'll send you the PDF. As a matter of fact, what I'll do, and Michelle sends you a link specifically, but The PDF that I said that I would send you, which is the layout of the standard, it's that slide and that slide. What I will do is I will have Ronnie put that up under Key Tools so that it can be downloaded in the future if you want. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining in. Happy holidays to you all. I hope you have a great new year, and 2016 is the best year yet. You know how to get a hold of me. If I can answer any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here for you. And if you're in the Charleston area and meeting in Wentworth area, stop by. Thanks so much, and we'll see you the next round. Thank you.